Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, specifically House of Anderson. That's right, we're taking a break from the Birdhouse with Brad Bird because we're doing something a little special. This week, our good friend and co-host Darren Moser, aka Dr. Sci-Fi, is on vacation. And you know what? He didn't want to be bothered by taking his mobile podcasting rig with him. And so we didn't want to deprive you of a podcast episode of Houselights. So we thought we'd do a little side story. So we're going into the Wayback Machine and going to House of Anderson, where longtime listeners will know that we analyzed every single one of Wes Anderson's movies. But at the time that we did it, The French Dispatch hadn't come out yet. Well, now we're in 2023. The French Dispatch is out. It came out in 2021. And so we're going to talk about it. And I am with my good friend and co-host, John Mills. John, how are you doing?
I am doing remarkably well, given the fact that I had to carry this tray of goodies up a Rube Goldberg machine of a building to deliver to you for your morning meeting, Mr. Riddell.
I love that. I love that bit because it's almost like if Escher was flat, and that's
Yes.
how he's going up. And this is hopefully if you're listening to this, you've seen the film. If you haven't, stop it, pause, watch the film, and come back. So this is what it's called: a love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life a collection of stories published in the French Dispatch magazine. This is a really convoluted concept. I mean, this is a magazine that works in Ennui, France, a fictional town, but publishes mainly in Kansas.
Yes.
But yet
Liberty, Kansas in specific.
Liberty, Kansas in specific. But it got so popular that it had a circulation of 500,000? Something like that. Something crazy like that in a lot of different countries and everything like that. And for this type of magazine, you know, this small operation, 500,000 is nothing to sneeze at, especially back in the day. And there's an intro, a prologue, an intro, 3 stories, and an epilogue. So, and that in itself is a very odd structure for a Wes Anderson film. And so this is just nobody talks about The French Dispatch, but this is a very crazy film structure-wise. John, have you seen this before? Is this your first time seeing it? Did you see it in the theater? What's going on?
First time seeing it. It came and went too fast. And it was, 2021 was a weird year for a lot of reasons still. And so if there were a lot of movies like this where if it wasn't making the movie theater money right out of the gate, it had like 2 weeks and then it was gone, sort of thing.
Right.
So I never got a chance to see it. And then it gets inevitably, I'll get to it. And then your queue list always gets weird and things get buried over time. So no, this is my first time. Is this your first time seeing it?
No, this was,
Okay.
I saw this one as soon as it came out because this came out in 2021. It was supposed to come out in 2020.
Yeah.
But for those of you who have been, around on planet Earth, 2020 was a very difficult year for a lot of different reasons. And so they delayed the recent release for a year. And I got this as soon as it came to video. I didn't see it in the theater because I wasn't watching movies in the theater like a lot of the country. And so I had to wait until video. But the moment it came out, the day it came out, my wife and I were like, put it on the TV, let's watch. And I am so glad that I did because, if you listen to our Anderson episodes, you know that I'm a huge fan of Anderson. Like there's very few films that I don't really like. And even the ones that I don't really like, I can recognize that they're done well. And I was actually talking about this movie. My parents came up to visit last weekend and I was talking about this movie. This was even before we decided to do a podcast on it. We were just talking about it because he's having a new one called Asteroid City. Is that what it's called?
That is out. Yes.
Yeah, that's
as
out
of this recording, it's out. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sarah and I, my wife and I think we're going to sneak away and try to see it. But I was talking about this movie, and my parents were like, "Oh, would we like it?" I go, "No, you wouldn't like it at all." And they said, they're like, "What else has he done?" I said, I was like, "Well, the Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, Life Aquatic, Darjeeling Limited," and they're like, "We haven't heard of any of those." I said, it was like, "Well, you probably have heard of the Grand Budapest Hotel. Like everyone knew about that one. That one made a lot of money." They're like, "Oh, we turned that off. That was terrible." I was like, "Yeah, you're not gonna like this. You're not gonna like the French Dispatch."
Yeah, if you don't dig the Grand Budapest Hotel, you're not making it more than 5 minutes into the French Dispatch.
No, not at all.
And it's interesting. I am legitimately curious because this is, you've seen this before, and this is my first time encountering it. And I got the gag, right? I got the structure. I knew what he's going for. I thought it was innovative. I thought it was different. I thought it was fresh. And there were parts of it that I thought were absolutely classic Wes Anderson.
Mhm.
I thought that the Benicio del Toro story with Black Widow 2, Florence Pugh,
Lee,
you normal people.
Lee Sadu, is that how you pronounce it? Sadu?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, the story with Benicio del Toro, where he's the imprisoned artist
Mhm.
and he's having an affair with the well, not even an affair. He's having, his muse is one of the prison
I'm
guards.
I think you could call it an affair.
Yeah, a relationship. Let's call it a relationship
Okay.
because there is something deeper going on there, sort of thing. That is the bones of a Wes Anderson film to me. That is
Yes.
something where like I expect an hour and a half of that. And my experience coming at it the first time is I look at it and I say, this I would have paid money to go see an hour and a half of this. As a segment, it leaves me frustrated because of the fact that I wanted more of it. And I didn't necessarily want more of the rest of it. I thought that the segment with Frances McDormand was very interesting. That's another one where I'm like, I could see that being a Life Aquatic, but with a female reporter sort of thing, like a realizing what your life has come to and what it means.
Mhm.
And so I see all of these elements of Anderson at work in these bits, never see it gel. Do you think that that lack of gelling is on purpose? You've seen it more than once. Do you think that it's intentional that he leaves it like that to further call out the magazine structure? Or do you think that that is just a failure to bring the narrative thread together? Because I'm looking for a huge emotional payoff at the end, the way Grand Budapest Hotel does, where when we double back and remind ourselves that this is all precipitated by Bill Murray dying,
Mhm.
that we're going to have that emotional moment at the end where we say, "Oh, my heart is torn in, my heart is torn asunder because of this thing that happened."
I think I think it's definitely it's intentional. That doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's good, but I think it was intentional to have this kind of structure mirror a French Dispatch magazine because you have that preamble, you have that initial story that's just kind of like a taste, and then you have the three story structure, and then you have a little bit of an epilogue. It's very much like a magazine where you read a story and you just get little tastes here and there. You don't get a full novel. You don't like if a movie is a novel, you're not going to get Benicio del Toro's story as a full movie. You're going to get it as an article. You're going to get it as a short story. And again, I'm not saying you're wrong for wanting that. I'm not saying that it's a positive or negative. I think that's what he was going for. And since that is what he was going for, he succeeded in that. But whether it was beneficial for that kind of enjoyment or that kind of film remains to be seen. I'm with you where my favorite section is the Benicio del Toro Painter short story. I could easily watch an entire 90-minute Wes Anderson film of that. And I'm not being I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say this, but that section is some of his best work out of all of his movies.
Completely agree.
Easily.
Completely agree.
But The French Dispatch is not.
Yes. Yes, you said it perfectly right there. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that is maybe what's so frustrating about the movie because I think one tiny change, two tiny changes happening would have made this land better with me. One is the animated section struck me exactly the same way that the animated section of Kill Bill Volume 1 struck me, is it's a director sitting there, I'm going to prove to you what I can do because I can do it. And it's like, you know, to quote Star Trek 6, let history show that just because we can do a thing, it does not follow that we must do that thing. And
My father was an idealist.
yes, sorry. Yeah. Some people think the
No,
French Dispatch means the end of history.
I'm with you, man. Like I watching Kill Bill the same. I skip the animated section every single time I watch Kill Bill. And with French Dispatch, every single time we get to the animated section, because I've seen this movie 3 or maybe 4 times. I like this, but when we get to the animated section, I roll my eyes. I'm like, okay. And it wasn't even directed by Wes Anderson. It was directed by somebody else.
And it just doesn't fit. I get that he's trying. Look, you know what I applaud about Wes Anderson having the French Dispatch in his filmography is I don't think that these sections work particularly well that we're criticizing right here. But the beautiful thing about a Wes Anderson movie is he does have his misfires. He does have his missteps. He does have his problems, but he operates on that non-blockbuster margin so that even when he, and I'm using this word liberally, fails, quote unquote fails, it's an interesting sort of failure where you're like, okay, well, at least he was trying something. It's like going to a restaurant and and the chef like makes something and you're like, I like the other 2 dishes, but this isn't really working for me. But I know that care and talent went into there's craft here, even if I don't think it works. I think that the other part of the movie that could have helped it land a lot better is getting back to that emotional through line, is instead of having them sitting in the office and just treating the Bill Murray's obituary as just another day, which I get is part of the point.
Mm-hmm.
But if they'd had them gather at the funeral to start writing the obit, and so you have Bill Murray laying in state while they're discussing his obit, and you realize that it's sort of a commentary on which is exactly how the scene is supposed to land, which is it's the commentary on the life of a journalist or a magazine writer, is everything's about the story and keeping it moving. And so I think that lands better if you simply take that scene from the offices of the French Dispatch and move it over to Bill Murray's wake. And I hate that I'm saying Bill Murray. I don't remember the character's name.
Nobody does.
And that's frustrating to me too, is a lot of these character names are unnecessarily overly witty. And so they don't stick with me like Max Fisher does.
I feel like the moment that we had with Bill Murray's character and oh geez, I'm completely blanking on his name.
Owen Wilson?
Jeffrey Wright.
Oh gosh, Jeffrey Wright. Yeah. Okay.
So Bill Murray's character and Jeffrey Wright's character, that moment was phenomenal when he was in the chicken coop and Bill Murray's talking to him. If we had a moment with Bill Murray like that in every single story, I think we would have much more of an emotional through line to feel his death a bit more in the epilogue. Because I mean, I understand that we need the build and you can't have a tearjerker like what we had with Jeffrey Wright every single time, but there needs to be some sort of stronger connection where instead of just like, oh, you're going to the hotel on my dime, there needs to be like every writer, not every writer, but the main writer from each section needs to have some sort of, he was my mentor, he pushed me along, he developed my skills more so than he was just a ticket for me to go to a hotel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that you're absolutely right. That does solve a lot of it, because that scene with Bill Murray and Jeffrey Wright is such a standout. And Jeffrey Wright is an actor who will never get the credit he deserves for exactly how insanely talented he is.
It's Jeffrey Wright's character, Roebuck Wright, was my favorite character in the entire movie, but yet the Benicio del Toro storyline was my favorite storyline.
Yes. Yep.
And that's a weird place to be in, because there were so many parts that were weak about his storyline, but he was phenomenal.
He is a a tremendously gifted actor because he's one of the few actors I think that isn't just great on his own terms, but is great for a Wes Anderson movie in specific because it
Yes.
requires a very muted sort of emotional projection that Bill Murray, he's in that zone. And Jeffrey Wright is like a more naturally dramatic actor that exists in that space. Bill Murray got there. Jeffrey Wright always was there, if that makes sense. And it's not a knock on either one of them. It's more that Jeffrey Wright, it's much more effortless for him, I think, to be in that space than many other actors that I've seen. And I think that's what makes his characters work so well, and especially in this.
And someone who had an absolutely thankless job because Jeffrey Wright did such a phenomenal job was Liev Schreiber.
Oh my gosh, yes.
He he was a perfect straight man
Mm-hmm.
for Wright, and it takes a lot of skill in order to create that tone between the interviewer and the interviewee where you can shine but not overshadow. And my favorite bit of the entire movie is when Jeffrey Wright gives this really emotional section, and then Liev Schreiber looks at the camera and says, "And now a message from Gemini Tooth Powder."
Yes. Yes. It's beautiful. Uh, that scene as well works so incredibly for me because the costuming is so perfect for it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds like a weird sort of thing, but the costuming for that moment that they're inhabiting and the time period they're evoking, and the fact that like it plays as well in color and black and white sort of thing that is an incredibly difficult costuming and set decoration trick to pull off, because there are so many things where if you colorize them from the black and white days, they look like garbage in color because they had to go for certain contrasts. Reminds me of the funny story that Rodney Dangerfield's signature tie was because like he wore it in black and white and then he like wore it on a color television. I if I'm misremembering the story or whatever, but basically the point of the story is that a couch that looks good in black and white doesn't necessarily look good in color, nor does a tie. And to have a costumer and a set decorator that is skilled enough to get it so that it works in both color and black and white, regardless of the segment that we're talking about, that's an incredible amount of skill to get in there.
Well, it's almost like George Reeve and his Superman, like his Superman outfit when he was on the TV show. Like it wasn't in color. Like even though the show was in black and white, like his Superman outfit wasn't made in color. It was made in really, really dark grays and blacks because it showed up better on
Mm-hmm.
black and white TV. And it's just really interesting that you have like, and when you're doing costuming, you have to think about the medium.
Yep.
And this is just another example of that. Yeah, there's so many great things about this movie, and like every single performance is fantastic.
Yes.
Like from I can never say pronounce his name right. Matthew Almeric, the guy who played the commissioner, the French commissioner, the commissaire.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah. I'll never
father,
say. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's in a lot of movies, and he did a great job, and I really believe like he was very believable, and all the way up to like Lois Smith, who played Ma in the rich art procure, like the person who employed
Mm-hmm.
Tilda Swinton. She's always a delight, and even Henry Winkler is in this. That's so crazy. You're just like, what the heck? Henry Winkler's in this.
Even though they're in such a small piece, Winkler and Bob Balaban, and Bob
Bell
Balaban, he's
Man,
a national treasure. Everybody,
Balaban is something else.
he's amazing. What's so incredible about them is they're in these very small parts, but when they're on screen, like there is something, it's that indefinable thing that certain actors, especially actors like Henry Winkler from old school television, they know how to play the camera so
Mhm.
perfectly well that Henry Winkler shows up and it's just like you're looking at like it doesn't matter what else is going on. Henry Winkler knows how to pull that focus to himself without without like making any show, without even making any specific movements, and he's just there, and you're paying attention to him. And Balaban is so good at that too, at doing that sort of thing. They create this locus, this focal point that draws you away from Adrian Brody and the scenes they're with to great effect, because it makes Adrian Brody work that much harder and be that much zanier
Yeah.
in what he needs to do. And again, we get back to that whole Benicio del Toro, the tortured artist, in prison, creating the gag at the end of having his masterwork be
Fresco.
A fresco is so incredibly, perfectly, gorgeously amazing. Like, I can't get over that. Like when Brody loses his mind about it, like it's
perfect. He's like, you f***ed us.
Yeah, right. It is something special. And I think that that's what makes this even more frustrating for me, is there are things that I specifically dislike about this film. The structure, it doesn't gel. The animated part, the way it doesn't quite land the emotional punch I think it should at the end. But then you come back and you talk about these particulars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where, let me ask you this, is it possible that Wes Anderson gets away with a little more? Because it's the difference between somebody who is being pretentious about their craft and somebody who simply is that, right? This isn't Wes Anderson trying too hard. This is just Wes Anderson being Wes Anderson and experimenting with some things. I would draw a comparison to others, but I would get into trouble. But there are other directors where they try to be as witty as, I'm looking for the term, as
Clever.
not even clever, as eccentric as Anderson.
Mm.
But they do it in a much more traditional structure. I think that Anderson is able to have you stop and pay attention to the particulars because he has such a focus on craft and doing the cute thing. Like, you're going to see the 4:3 framing, which is it's odd. It seemed odd in Grand Budapest. And then it comes back here. This doesn't feel as natural to the 4:3 when he uses it.
I have to agree. There's a lot of switching. And it's funny because I kept thinking about our old co-host Brandon, while watching this, because he couldn't stand it when people would switch aspect ratios. And Wes Anderson is the hugest offender of this. And it didn't seem as natural as Grand Budapest. With Grand Budapest, you didn't really notice it as much because there was kind of like a rhyme or reason to it. There was like, oh, it's 4:3 here because of this. It's 6:9 because of this. It's 2.35 because of this. With this one, it was very much whatever the hell he felt like. And there were so many times when I was thinking, like, why did you do that? Like, you're doing 4:3, but 16:9 would have been better. Even 2.35 would have been better at this point. There's one specific example where I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Irish and weird. Saoirse, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. Keep going.
Yeah, the blonde with blue eyes who's young, who played the showgirl in the third story. When the son is saying, "Do you have blue eyes?" and she goes in and she looks through the hole and he sees her eyes. It's in 4:3, but you're only focusing on on a rectangle of her eyes. Why would you do 4:3 there? Why? Because if you want to focus on the eyes, you go for the wider aspect ratio like you've done so many other times. Like when they showed the fresca of his paintings, they went 2.35 because it's a wide shot. Why wouldn't you do that with her eyes? It's just things like that took me out of it because the aspect ratio was going back and forth all the time.
There was something that made me think of Kubrick and the whole thing about center frame it, and it should always look right no matter how big the screen is. And this movie, I think, is the strongest argument for it. because of what you're talking about right here. I should be able to watch this on a 4:3 or a 16:9 or a 2.35, or I'm sorry, 2.39, you know, aspect
I was going to say
ratio.
Schindler would yell at you if you
You know
said
what? I slipped up because in the original DVDs, they always screwed it up. They always said 2.35. And it's like, read that so many times and it's burned into your
it's
brain.
true. It's true. I have a
You
hard time with it.
you just like it's there, like actually in the cerebral cortex, wrapped around like a SETI alpha 5 eel. And it's like you go in there, and I think that had this movie been a consistent aspect ratio, I think it would have helped. And let me actually use a moment that we talked about earlier about the I don't know, the valet or whatever taking up the tray of stuff up top.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How much more interesting is that shot if instead of regulating it to 4:3 and having them go up, you have it be a 16:9 or even a 2.39, and you see other buildings on the sides where stuff is going on, so that you build this sort of like whole world expectation
Hmm.
of even the stuff on the sides. You're seeing these things and it doesn't distract you, but you're layering stuff in so that it's more immersive for what you're going through. And you're scrunching up your face. Absolutely. You don't agree with me on this.
I think I disagree with you on that one, where I feel like that shot in particular was built for 4:3 because it felt uh, because it's funny because I even thought when I was started thinking about what worked in 4:3 and what didn't work in 4:3, I gave the example of what didn't work, but in my mind I was thinking about that shot as what worked because that felt very old school. It felt like a set. It felt like a Hitchcock set, like a Rear Window kind of Hitchcock set where it was built entirely for this shot, for this purpose. And with, when you're going through vertical, like when you're going through the Z axis, that's one beautiful thing about 4:3 is that it forced you to work in the Z axis, not the X axis, but the Z and Y. And that's what worked for that because the individual was going mainly up, a little bit to side, but mainly up. And it was in the background where you had some side buildings in the foreground. And so I think that was a perfect example of a good use of 4:3.
Okay, I want him to keep stretching, and so I would counter that with saying two things. Um, One was Rear Window in 4:3. No, I don't think it
I don't
was.
even know. I
And
don't
then
even know if it was. I can't remember.
wow, really? Come on,
Yeah.
man. Anyway, and number two, I'm talking about
Besides,
the
I was just talking about the set. I was just talking about the set
I
of
know
Rear
what you were
Window.
talking about, but I think it winds up enhancing it if you find a way to put stuff on the side that I would just like to see him try it. To have stuff on the side that isn't other people climbing up the buildings or something, but something that acts as frame that isn't just the pillar box black bars when I'm watching it on my TV screen, right? That it's something that helps the shot, but is still interesting sort of things going on, and he can still go up and he can still be regulated to that tight vertical space. But then there are other things used to buttress it to act in concert. We're never going to agree on this. I get that.
Rear Window was Academy ratio,
Was
which
it?
was yes, it was. It was
No.
1.375 to 1, which is very close to 4:3.
Okay, close to, but not quite. So there you go. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so
I will hold on to this like a dog with a bone. I will not let it. Was it 4:3? Oh my God, really?
It was Academy. It was Academy, not
No
4:3. It was
kidding.
Academy.
No,
Which is
yeah. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. They're very close to each other.
so. I mean, on home video, it would have totally been 4:3.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the second. This is what I think. This is the weakest story, and I want to get your opinion on that. I didn't really like this one. There's not too much I like about the second story. I think Timothy Chalamet does fine. I think Frances McDormand doesn't really get to stretch too terribly much, and I just think the story is just kind of blasé. I'm not. I don't really dig it. What do you think about the second story?
I dug the story. I got what he was going for. It had a vibe to it that was very Life Aquatic, and that's why I pointed to it earlier.
Really?
This is
What
Francis,
makes you say that?
because Life Aquatic, one of the reads of Life Aquatic is a guy coming to terms with what his life has meant, of everything that it's come to, of he realizes he's at the end of his story, that there are, things going on, things have changed, life is different, and he's, he's in the final act sort of thing. And I think that there's very much an element to that story with Frances McDormand that's there. I think that the reason it falters a little bit is because there's too much focus on Timothy Chalamet. The Benicio del Toro story works because it's his story, but the guard who is his muse it's balanced just right, and the
Mhm.
framing device is just right.
Yes.
There should have been more focus on Frances McDormand and where she was, and less focus on Timothy Chalamet and where he was.
Agreed.
So, for instance, if you take out the scene where Timothy Chalamet and the young radical girl are
Juliet.
about to make love, take out that scene. You take out a couple of other bits that are focused on him. I think you can see that sort of thing where it's really about a woman coming to terms with that question of, is this what my life has led to? Is this what it all means? Is this what it is? Is this my swan song moment?
I
And I think
really
it
liked
lands better that way.
I I would I totally agree with you because I feel like it was too much Chalamet and not enough McDormand. I loved the side by side of McDormand and Juliet, where we have someone who's at the end of her career. I mean, I'm talking about the writer, not McDormand.
Yeah, yeah.
She's gonna go on forever. But you have someone who is feeling her age, especially with sleeping someone so young, and then you have Juliet, who's very much at the beginning of her story. And I love seeing that side by side, that honest and revealing portrait of cleaning the face, putting makeup on,
Mhm.
and the wrinkles, the smooth, just the very dichotomy and contradiction of back and forth. I thought that was very great and very poetic. And I would have loved to have seen more of that kind of thing. But I'm totally with you. It was just, while watching this, you're just like, who's the protagonist? Is it the
Yes.
writer? Is it Chalamet? I understand that it's weird because in the Benicio del Toro story, you have Swinton, who's the writer, but is the framing device for Del Toro's story with Lisa Seydoux. And so it makes sense. It feels together. Like Swinton's not a part of the story, even though she was there. And then you have the second story where McDormand and Chalamet kind of share the protagonist duties back and forth with the whole
Mhm.
blind date. And then you have the third story where Wright is the writer and the framing device,
Mhm.
but he's the main focus, but yet it's not his story because he's just along for the ride in the latter half of the third story. So it's very weird. Like, I think the second one is where you have the most confusion, the most protagonist
Yes.
confusion. I think that's why I don't like it as much. And although I love storylines with, what is it, May December romance? Is that what it's called? When it's
Yeah.
a
Yes. May,
I
December.
love May December romances when the woman is the December. Like, I love that because I don't think we get a lot of stories like that. It's always very much in life and in movies. It's very much an older man and a younger woman. But I love seeing an older woman with a younger man. I just think it's very fascinating from a narrative standpoint. Uh, but I can't put my finger on what I don't like about it. I think I just don't give about their situation. I think that might be it.
I think it's because of the protagonist confusion, honestly. You're not
Yeah.
sure who you're supposed to sympathize with, and I think that, Timothy Chalamet, this is not the actor's fault. His character is not terribly sympathetic,
Or
is
even
basically what it boils down to.
well drawn.
I think that the story itself is caught between it has Timothy Chalamet confusing things when the real protagonist confusion or balance or whatever, whatever should be between the two women. He should be the afterthought,
He
the
should be
balance point.
Juliet, and Juliet should be Chalamet.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. In terms of the balance. Absolutely. And I think that, if anything, what I would be really intrigued to see would be a Wes Anderson anthology series on, I don't know, Max or something like that, where he just does a season of 8 shows and it's these sorts of things.
I'd love that.
Because just imagine him set loose where he doesn't have the burden of trying to make it all come together. And he just has, you know what? He just wants to throw together this 25-minute thing and just do a little short film.
Well, I think his
be
next
great.
piece is like 37 minutes long, right? I think like he did the Asteroid City, and then after that he says he's coming out with a movie, like he's calling it a movie, but it's only going to be 37 minutes long. I mean, if that's where he wants to go, then the internet is where he needs to go. Like he needs to go to streaming.
Agree. Completely agree. He should bundle it with What Did Jack Do by David Lynch that aired on Netflix. So hey, I like that. Don't bash it.
Okay, so speaking of which, like streaming and whatnot, it just made me think about like the technical aspects. So this was because of all of the rebates and tax write-offs and everything that they got from shooting in France. This movie only cost $25 million to make. That's insane for this many people in this kind of time frame in 2021 when this was released, 2020 when it was made. $25 million is almost nothing to a studio. But the thing is that worldwide it made 46, so it didn't double its budget. And so it probably took a bit of a loss. But the thing with a Wes Anderson film is that when you finance, like this is Searchlight, is the distributor. When you finance a Wes Anderson film, you know that you're not going to make Budapest money. Budapest was an outlier. When Budapest made money, everyone was shocked, including Wes Anderson, including the distributor, including the production company. When you make a Wes Anderson film, you make it for the prestige. You make it because A-list celebrities, B-list celebrities want to be involved. And you know you're going to get some awards. You might get some nominations. You take it as a loss because it keeps you in the running for awards. I know that some people may scoff at that, but that's a real industry thing. It's kind of like Terrence Malick. Terrence Malick movies don't make money. They don't make money. It does not. Terrence Malick does not get butts in the seats. But when Terrence Malick comes to you and says, "I have a movie idea," you make it because it's name recognition. Because you have people who love watch it, will talk about it. You'll get free advertising, and it's prestige.
Yes,
and I think that's the thing where the French Dispatch was him testing his limits post Budapest, where Budapest Anderson was a different kind of Wes Anderson. In my mind, that's when he really became obsessed with himself, when he became really self-aware.
Ooh, okay. That's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. I would say that we are, based on what I've seen now with French Dispatch, and then I have not seen Asteroid City, but I will. But based on what I've heard, I suspect that we are all going to wind up looking back on Grand Budapest Hotel as the pinnacle. Like he hit it, best it ever got, and it wasn't going to get that good again.
Right.
Sort of thing. I think it's the culmination of so many absolutely perfect bits that came together just right, from casting to writing to affectation to all of those sorts of things. Everything came together just right. That was the lightning in the bottle moment. That was the masterpiece that came together that just absolutely paid off. Because I see in the French Dispatch a director, to your point, thinking about everything you just said, somebody who is surprised and maybe a little freaked out by what happened last time.
Yeah, I get that.
He hasn't gotten out of his head from that yet. Oh, how did I do? Right? Like, that's the worst thing for an artist, for whether it's a writer, whether it's a painter, whether it's a director, whether it's anything, is to sit there and say, oh, I've got to try to replicate that. How do I make that happen again? And then you overthink everything. And I think The French Dispatch is a little bit of overthinking.
When I went to film school, I was the first film, like there was 1 year where I spent in Los Angeles, and it was really intensive. It was, you threw you in it, and you made 3 films throughout the year. And my first film was fantastic. Everybody loved it. I loved it. It was good. It was genuinely good. And I was like, holy crap, I had no idea I had that in me. My second one was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. It was just like a valid effort. My third one, epic failure. And I talked to my professors. I said, I was like, what happened? What do you think happened? Why do you think, like all the pieces were there, but I kept trying to chase that high that I got from the first film that I made. And they said, you tried too hard. And that has stuck with me for my entire career. Ever since I graduated, I kept thinking, am I trying too hard here? And while I really like French Dispatch, and I like French Dispatch more than I like Grand Budapest Hotel.
That's nuts.
Everybody loved Grand Budapest Hotel.
I did.
People who
Yes.
weren't even Wes Anderson film fans were fans of Grand Budapest Hotel. And I think that's why it did so well financially. That's why it got 9 Academy Award nominations. And the most that he ever got up until Grand Budapest and after was 2 Academy Award nominations. And it won 4. I think French Dispatch is a signifier of him trying too hard to chase that dragon.
Yes. The funny thing is, we agree on that point. I definitely think Grand Budapest Hotel is a more successful film artistically.
I don't get it. I don't get the love for Grand Budapest Hotel. It is probably my least favorite Wes Anderson film, next to, I'm not even going to include Bottle Rocket, Rushmore and Darjeeling.
See, this is what's so fascinating, I think, sometimes about Houselights is finding out how nuts you are. And like Rushmore, or, go back and listen to it if you want to, guys. Like, I loved it so much that my girlfriend at the time and we saw it the following night again. We could not, like, we loved it so much. We were like, I can't believe how much I love this. And so we went to the movie theater the second night in a row to see the movie again because we just couldn't get enough of it. And finding out these little differences here about, we both love Anderson. So, but we have this disparity between us. So the question becomes this: what is it about Anderson then that keeps us coming back? Because obviously we have personal differences in what we're looking for and what we like.
Yeah.
And Anderson as an artist really teases it out of us. So is there some sort of Rorschach test of, if you find 2 people who have the same favorite director and you throw them in what do you love? What do you love? They'll give you the same words, but then you look at the movies that they love the most from that artist, and is this a telling moment, or am I reading too much into it, sort of thing? Because
maybe both. I don't know. I think, okay, so just from start to finish, you have Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Darjeeling Limited, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, Isle of Dogs, The French Dispatch, and now Asteroid City. So of that list, which one is your favorite? Which one is, you're like, you know what, I could watch that as many times as possible?
Okay. I think that Grand Budapest Hotel is probably better, but Rushmore I could watch every day for the rest of my life.
So, okay, I know how much you love Rushmore. Like, you are an unabashed fan. Like, in the episode, you
Absolutely
talked about how much it meant to you. So you think Grand Budapest is better than Rushmore, even though that's your favorite?
I think in our, you know what? It's sort of the Batman Begins Dark Knight argument. I could go back and forth between either one, but which one is truly better versus which one gets the biggest emotional reaction out of me? That's sort of the distinction between the two.
This is what's crazy to me, is that I feel like something is wrong with me with Grand Budapest Hotel, because it's how I view wine. I think everyone who drinks wine is just joking. Like they're in on a bit. Where like when I drink wine, I'm like, this is terrible garbage that burns my belly. No one in their right mind could possibly enjoy this. And yet there's an entire culture who, who makes it a part of their personality. Now, this is an extreme example. I can totally get why people like Grand Budapest Hotel. I'm not saying it's garbage. I'm not saying that at all. But it makes me feel like it's a bit because everyone talks about how much they love it. I'm just like, it was fine, I guess. I just don't get it. I feel like a hipster because as someone who has loved Wes Anderson since since Royal Tenenbaums, I feel like, oh, you're just a poser because you didn't like him until Grand Budapest Hotel, until he hit, financial success.
But I loved him. I loved him before that. But number one, you are a hipster, and number two is that I think that there are two things that make Grand Budapest work so incredibly well, and I think this is where it's the casting is so perfect in Grand Budapest. If I take any one of those actors out, I don't think it works as well. What's baffling to me is I come here to, to this film, and all of these actors are fantastic. Like I can't criticize really any of these performances, from Owen Wilson to even Fisher Stevens is barely in the movie. He's in it for like 2 seconds, and I'm like, no, he's really good.
Jeez, I don't even remember that.
Exactly. Jason Schwartzman is in it for a blink of an eye. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he's good.
That's right. He's the illustrator. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it's this, like that's another thing that's so weird is it's like Budapest Hotel. I will grant you if I change so much as one of the actors or actresses that's in that film doesn't work as well. Everybody, like Harvey Keitel, always been hit and miss, and he's definitely hit in that movie. And it's just one of those things where it's but everything comes together, and I think what it is the major distinction between the two of them is that I think that Grand Budapest has a true emotional, empathetic arc to Ralph Fiennes' character that is missing from this. It's what I'm looking for that's not there with this film is that I want to feel that impact of Bill Murray's death at the end, and I don't. So that's sort of the shortcoming for me.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We've been going 50 minutes.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and give the rating. I'm going to go to you first. I started the episode, and so I get to dictate who goes first. I want you to give the star rating. How many, how many French revolutions are you giving this? Oh, one thing I do want to note, just as a side trivia, I have no idea if this is true. I read it on the internet, so it must be true. Lee Seydoux had no idea that she was going to do nudity until she showed up on set. I personally have no idea how that can be accurate, but thank goodness that she's French, because otherwise you would have had a problem.
Before we get to the ratings, I will take 30 seconds to step aside. I was talking about this after watching it with the legendary Joey. Happy birthday, Joey, if you're listening to this, which you aren't, but whatever. I can say that scene was off-putting to me in the sense that I did not see it as necessary at all.
Really?
I did not see it as necessary at all.
That's really funny because I'm a prude and I'm delicate.
Yes.
I didn't find any of the nudity here as unnecessary or off-putting. None of it. It didn't bother me in a lot. I didn't even think about it twice.
It didn't. Let me be clear. When I say unnecessary, I don't mean off-putting. I mean,
you said off-putting.
Did I say off-putting?
You said off.
Well, I think it was off-putting because I think probably I picked up on Seydoux's, if she didn't expect this, then maybe I picked up on that sort of thing. Because
oh no, she has it in her clause. I think that she's supposed to be naked in every movie.
Well, maybe so. But I don't know. I didn't see. I saw it as something you could shoot around, and I think it would have actually made it more playful and more interesting to shoot around it. than to just
Mm.
basically throw it right in there. You can disagree all that you want to, but I'm
I
just
do
saying.
disagree because I think that I think if we don't see, I can't believe I'm defending nudity here, but I think if you don't see her nude in her full glory, as it were, that I think it takes something away when you see the abstract versions of her nude. Because I think if they shoot around it, you don't really show it, and then you see the abstract versions of her where you can't really even see that there's a woman there, and definitely not a nude
You
woman
couldn't?
there. Except
No,
for
I'm
the
not
very last
joking.
in the
I'm not joking.
in the fresca, I feel like you could really only tell that it was a woman at the very, very end, in the very last painting. But regardless, I think it takes something away from the experience of it takes something away from the reveal of his paintings and the abstract expressionistic view of what he's doing when he calls it Nude Sabone number 17, and it's just abstract expressionistic, and then we see this gorgeous, well-built nude French woman. I think it you lose something.
I don't know that I agree. I understand the point that you're making. I just think you could have shown her from the rear and it would have been okay. It would have still worked. It still would have accomplished what you're looking for. I'm not trying to squash it and be like, oh, you can't do things like that. You know that you and I are different in terms of the sensitivity scale with everything.
We really are. We're all over the map between the two of us.
Yeah. And it's, I still want to get you to see Bone Tomahawk. So,
Nope.
yep.
Nope.
And the
Nope.
thing is, I want to show it to you the way that they showed the movie to McDowell at the end of A Clockwork Orange.
I knew
that's how I want to show the movie.
Yeah. I knew you were going to bring up Clockwork. Okay,
Man,
give me your rating.
Show it. Okay, my rating for this is I guess for you, a truly rage-inducing.
You say 2, I'm going to slap you across the face.
2.5.
Oh my god,
that's me,
dude.
2.5.
Okay, like when I give my rating, it's going to be, people are going to go like, what? But like, I give this a solid 4. I think this is a great movie. I love this movie. I've seen it at least 3 times. And even though I have a lot of criticisms about it, and there's a lot of things that don't work, I've used this excuse before in the show where when things work so well and it can overshadow the things that don't work well, I can enjoy it and give it a higher rating. This is a huge example of that. That's why I'm giving this 4 stars, is because I think this is a stellar movie. I think this is an underrated movie. I don't think we talk about it enough. And I think this is heartwarming and lovely and innovative, but at the same time, it's not firing on all cylinders, but there's so much that's so great. And like the line from from Jeffrey Wright, when he says, he's like, I have trouble with cartography, a curse of the homosexual. Like
it's such an incredible toss-off line that's
such a throwaway, but I texted all my gay friends. I'm just like, do you get lost a lot? Like, is this a all of them were just like, what? I'm like, I watched a movie and he said it was a curse of the homosexual.
He must have done research when he said that, that there's got to be something scientific about it, right? Something like that.
So I just got a crazy idea. So Darren's on vacation and we were planning on going back to the birdhouse next week. What if we say, screw Darren, give him another week off, and we both see Asteroid City, and that's what we do next week to contribute to the House of Anderson?
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Do you have time to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
I kind of like that idea. I would
if
love
I
to
could find it in a theater in these United States near me. Sure.
Yeah. Well, you telling me that Focus Features isn't giving you a wide release everywhere?
It's not the biggest release, It's although honestly, with all the exhibitors showing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny right now, maybe they wish they'd spared a theater for a Wes Anderson movie.
Good Lord, is this a packed into the month? We're getting, we're getting a Wes Anderson, we're getting Asteroid City, we're getting Oppenheimer, we're getting Barbie, we're getting Dial of Destiny, we're getting Mission Impossible. Good Lord.
Well, I can say that Oppenheimer, I can't wait to revisit the House of Nolan because they've promised that they have completely recreated a nuclear blast to the point where I will lose my eyesight when I watch it go off in Oppenheimer. It's not at all a marketing ploy.
But what a way to go. Okay, well, you heard it here, folks. That you know what? I'm not gonna give us like if we can get. We both have kids, and so
True.
if we can get away and see Asteroid City, that's what we're gonna do next week. If not, what you're gonna hear is our next entry in the Birdhouse with The Incredibles. So stay tuned. Either way, it's gonna be a fun experience.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.